Good morning, guys. People probably heard about last night's attack in D.C. Guys, it's crazy. Just the other day, I'm talking about Jews, Jewish organizations, and Jews in general in America vilifying any person, any Jew who wants to physically defend Jews, whether it's on campus, whether it's on the streets of America or any other diaspora country, diaspora city. And lo and behold, guys, there you go. So now my question is, guys, I'm wondering, what is it going to take? How long is it going to take? And what is it going to take for Jews in America to realize that we need to be armed? Myself and a few of my friends, I've been saying this for years. And I'm talking to myself because I live in what's called a dumb blue state, and I still don't have, not in possession of anything. I have friends who are very, you know, Baruch Hashem, they know what they're doing. They train all the time. They live in places where you're actually, not hindered as much as in other places. Let's put it that way. At least in America, right? I literally have friends who say, they would want to make Aliyah, but in Israel, there's a problem. Unless you live in a settlement, there's a problem to have, to be armed. I mean, that's easing up now, but it's taking some time, right? It's taking some time, especially if you were never in the IDF. So it's a whole different story. So yeah, guys. I mean, I think now we understand that Jews have to learn how to defend themselves, either with, uh, carrying something in their pocket, or just learning how to defend themselves, just period. Whether it's martial arts or what have you, right? Or at the very least, just be more vigilant. At the very least, if you're going to have an event, my friends, and I mentioned these organizations, right, who are just part of the what's called the Prussian Olympics, and anytime something like this happens, or anytime anybody says anything or does anything, whether they incite anything against us or they physically do something against us, these people are always running to their congressman or to their senator or to the media, instead of just saying, well, how about we just beef up security at these places, right? Like, my question is, where the heck was security there, right? It's a museum, it's a building, it's a Jewish building, right? It's a Jewish event, an Israeli event, etc., etc. But it's a Jewish event, right? Let's just stop beating around the bush, right? So there should be crazy security. Like, folks, I've had meetings in these in the buildings of the Jewish organizations. Let's say in Manhattan, when you go into the building, even not even the Israeli consulate, but just like any building of any of these organizations, the security there is absolutely insane. It's basically they hire these former like Duvdavan guys, and I know this because I personally know one of them. He's a whatever. He's a friend of my family member who I saw there. He used to be in Duvdavan. So they hire these Duvdavan guys, like these special forces guys, to be the security guys at these literally just Jewish organizations in their offices, right, in Manhattan. So these guys should be there everywhere. If it's an event involving Israeli consulate members, these guys should be there everywhere. And for whatever reason, they were not. Or maybe if they were in the building, but not outside it. I don't know what the story was, guys. I don't know what really the layout of this whole situation is. But I can assume that if this couple was leaving the building and they left the building and they got shot like this, there was no one outside the building. It was completely quiet, right? My friends, honestly, this is probably gonna start happening more and more. I mean, it was already happening. If you guys remember the shooting in the I think it was in Pittsburgh in the shul, the shooting in the Chabad in California, in Poway, California, Rabbi Goldstein, who got his finger blown off, and then Trump met him, and it was a whole thing. Even after that happened, they were calling Trump an anti-Semite, but that's a different story. Guys, I mean, like, if those things were not wake up calls, I don't know what could be, right? And again, it's sad to me that anytime something like this happens, these so-called Israel organizations, Jewish organizations, start going to the congressmen and the senators and saying, basically, how could this happen? Or they go to the presidents of universities. My friends, isn't it instructive to you already by now that you see the president of an Ivy League school sitting, speaking of Congress, at a congressional hearing, and the congressperson asks them, if somebody walks around campus and says, like, do X, Y, and Z against the Jews, what are you going to do to that person, to that student? They're going, well, it depends on the context. What about if they do something to blacks or Hispanics or Chinese or whoever? Yeah, that person's going to get expelled, suspended, expelled, disciplined. Well, it depends on that. When it comes to Jews, it depends on the context, guys. Because you see, there's Jewish, and then there's Israel, and then there's Zionism. These are separate things. My friends, you understand what's going on. You understand what's going on here. So if the presidents of these universities are, behaving this way, holding these ideas, taking these stances, you can only imagine what your local congressman would say or do or think. And even if they say the right things, what would they do? Nothing. What would the senators do? Nothing. What would the police do in your town? If it just so happens that the police is on your side, okay, great. And what about police that are not on your side? What about if you go to England or these European other countries and you see the police doing nothing, or the police arresting people for having, let's say, Christian prayers in public, and allowing an entire, like Mecca to assemble in the center of London, right? They almost put the Kaaba there, basically, right? What if you have something like that, guys? What are you gonna do? Nothing. My friends, it used to be that I think it was in the 60s and 70s and even 80s, Jews got together, a group of Jews got together, I'm not going to say their name here, don't want to get banned, and they said, listen, Jews have to arm themselves, Jews have to defend themselves, and the majority of the Jews, when they heard that, they said, it's true, we should do that, and you guys are right. Why? Because the Jews who heard that were, 25 years removed from this, what I called yesterday, an incineration event, a mass incineration event, right? Now we're 80 years on from that event. Ironically, if you ask American Jews, how do they connect to their Judaism, most of them will say, remembering that event. Okay. So now, what does remembering that event mean? Oh, just remembering it and saying the phrase, never again. I was just talking to my friend in Israel, and he said to me, the most correct thing. He said, back then, the Holocaust happened because of something that was top down. It was a government instituted thing. It was a government initiated thing, right? Some crazy guy came into power. He had a few thugs with him, and he managed to galvanize the entire country against a group of people, right? Today, folks, this is not, at least not en masse, it's not a government orchestrated thing. It is a bottom-up thing. It's a grassroots thing. And it's a thing that's happening both from the left and from the right. This is what I told my family and friends back in 2012 when Obama was reelected. Just from reading YouTube comments, just from reading comments on the internet, anecdotally coming to my own conclusions, saying, yeah, it's going to come from the Free Palestine crowd, the Islamists, and it's also going to come from these, basement creatures, what I call them, right? Eric Cartman in real life, and it ain't funny, the woke right, as we call them. So, yeah, guys, it's coming from the bottom up, and you don't know when, and you don't know where. And the best thing I can say is don't vilify people, don't vilify Jews, your fellow Jews, who come to you and say you have to defend yourself, who come to you and say that the only way to deal with this problem is to get physical. Yeah, listen, guys, we had a rabbi back in the day. Yeah, he would get arrested for a day. He would get put in the in the so-called drunk tank, even though he wasn't drunk, for a day. Yeah, because he dared to defend his fellow Jews. He dared to galvanize other people to defend their fellow Jews physically, and not run to your congressman or senator or whoever. Because we know, again, running to your congressman or senator or your police, it's falling on deaf ears, my friends. That's at best. At worst, it's the person's going to go directly against us. He's going to side with our enemies. My friends, if you go to a shul, I'm going to end with this. If you attend the shul and you see that there's no security, or the security that's there is there for like a limited time, if he's there in the beginning, and then when you come out of shul, there's nobody there, except for a bunch of little kids running around in the front, please speak to your rabbi. Don't speak to your rabbi. Like, surround your rabbi, take four of your friends and walk into the office of your rabbi, or talk to your rabbi at Kiddush. Make an announcement. Yeah, make an announcement. Make it public and say, Rabbi, I would like for there to be security here the entire time that we are here. Whether it's on Shabbos, whether it's during the week. Yes, it costs extra money. How much is your life worth? How much is our lives worth? Right? Put a price tag on every single congregant in the shul, or put a price tag on every single person that attends this Jewish event, or this museum, or whatever it is, Holocaust Center. Folks, how much is a Jewish life worth? How much does it cost? It's priceless, right? We know that. So I understand people, they need to raise money. They have a budget. They have to spend money on this, on that, Kiddush, this, that, events. I get it, guys. But at the end of the day, guys, you don't want to send one of your congregants. You know what I'm saying, right? You don't want that. You don't want to have to come to the family of one of your congregants and say, Baruch Dayan Emes. That's the last thing you want to do. My friends, let's stop with the oppression Olympics. Let's stop with begging other people to save us and help us. The only one who can defend the Jew is a Jew. That's one of the reasons, that's not the main reason, but that's one of the reasons we have a land and a country that we live in, and we have an army. Unfortunately, October 7th, you saw what happens when the Jews fall asleep at the wheel. Whether it was allowed, whether it's what happened, by negligence, or whether it was something else. The point is, this is what happens when we fall asleep at the wheel. Whether it's in the south of Israel, whether it's at a museum in Washington, a shul in California, a shul in Pennsylvania, or in France, Toulouse, London, Paris. Guys, the list goes on. I don't have to enumerate to you the history, right? Even going back. Iraq, Morocco, etc., etc. Like, it just goes on and on. My friends, but for the first time ever, we have an opportunity to defend ourselves. For the first time ever, we are not, dhimmis, second-class citizens under Islam. We are not like, serfs in Russia. We are part of society. We, are successful, Baruch Hashem. We're like in politics. We're in these high places. Okay, so we have the ability to defend ourselves, guys, without apology. And without telling the other Jew, without one Jew telling the other Jew, oh, you're a caveman and a troglodyte, and we're not going to become like these people, but like become like the people who are attacking us, my friends. I mean, like, okay, so we're going to keep having this, whatever we saw last night, over and over again until we learn the lesson. Hopefully, we will learn the lesson eventually. Anyway, guys, I think I've belabored the point, and let's just keep our eye on the ball. Don't fall asleep. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.